Hi, I'm Owen Culver, and this is my Algudu project. This is a mini Winter Wonderland mini golf course. So the topics that we'll be using for this are conservation of energy, rotational dynamics, uh, statics, and friction. So it's going to start out um, with the player dropping a ball of a radius of their choosing at a along this very shallow ramp with a really small angle, and the goal of the game is to get the ball into this hole, the golf hole. Um, so it's gonna start out with the only energy being the potential energy, gravitational potential energy, and as it rolls down the slope, it gains kinetic, rotational, and linear energy. Um, so as it rolls off the ramp, it hits this rod rotating about its center. So the interesting thing about this rod is it is static prior to the ball applying torque to it, because there's a thruster applying a force applying a torque that is equal to a torque in the opposite direction of this hanging mass. So uh, it will be in equilibrium until the ball applies a torque to it. And the interesting thing is the thruster in the mass will not be applying the same amount of torque once the ball hits, because the as you see, the chain is always going to be hanging down, and the torque is only includes the force that is perpendicular to the axle. So right now it's only uh, that vector of the force is applying any torque. So the thruster will be applying a greater force. That's why you see it spinning uh, rapidly after one of these after the ball like messes up the rod. Now, the name of the game really is balancing the momentum and the ball has when it enters or falls on top of the axle, and the amount of torque it's applying. Because if you give it too much, if the ball enters with too much momentum, as you see here, it will just the ball will just roll right off the other side. But if it enters with not enough momentum, the actual the torque is too strong, and there it doesn't allow for the ball to then roll down this slope right here. So after after it leaves the rod and enters the slope uh, right here, the ball again the ball will now have potential gravitational potential energy, kinetic energy from rotation, and linear kinetic energy. Now, as the ball rolls down this ramp, the interesting thing about this ramp is it has a um, infinite friction, meaning that as the ball rolls across this, it will lose linear kinetic energy, but gain it will all that linear kinetic energy lost will be converted into rotational kinetic energy, as the friction uh, causes applies a torque on the ball, making it rotate. And after it jumps off, all that rotational kinetic energy is going to be constant as it rolls along these two blocks because they both have zero friction, and meaning that no forces are being applied other than the normal and gravitational force on the ball. And ideal conditions for us. Um, one one main thing is that there's uh, no the energy for the energy to be conserved throughout this. None No energy can be converted into thermal energy, which would be happening if this was in the real world. But because we're using a modeling system, uh, or Algudu, uh, there's going to be some assumptions being made that we wouldn't be able to in the real world. And there's also no air resistance. The fact that we have infinite friction uh, right here and zero friction right here, both don't really make sense considering real world things that would need to be true for that to happen. Um, another assumption being made here is that all these every collision is perfectly inelastic, which isn't true. Every collision we have is all of these collisions in this golf course would be somewhat elastic because there would have to be deformations in some of the shapes, and there are no deformations observed, obviously, because uh, the simulation assumes that all collisions are going to be perfectly inelastic. Other than that, Algudu models